Let's talk non-physical, non-physical. Let's talk non-physical. Let's talk non-physical. Let us have some spirit talk. Some spirit talk. Let us have some spirit talk.
I'm finding more difficult than I thought to figure out people where they're at. So, for example, one thing I know about you is that you're making progress, but it's difficult for me to know exactly what that progress is, because I mean, in my evolution, I started with trees, with I started adding colors in time. One thing, for example, that because some things come out of the sudden without an intention, and they stay there. Because, for example, houses and buildings, I never thought about them, wanting them, nothing. They just came one day. I saw something. They came another day. So it's like you are making a new friendship with an unexpected person, and then when you think about it, you've been friends for several months, and it's already, that person is already there. So that's how I got for a lot of stuff.
So what I've been doing, if I were to write it down, like all the different things, and we're recording now, so we can describe some of what I've picked up. So like one thing, I mean, we'll work backwards. So one thing that you've been doing is eyes open and, trying to get images from that. And I've been practicing that lately because it's really easy to practice. Like I could be talking to you right now and practice that method, because even with my eyes open. So what I'm doing is I'm essentially looking at the world, but I'm also paying as much attention as possible to the background chatter that's in my visual buffer. So even though I'm seeing the world, I also see the fact that the world isn't completely 100% clear, because there's actually like a buffer in front of it that's very, for now it doesn't have much features, but it can if I focus on it. And so regards to that, I've had a few instances now where I've stared at like the 128 gray screen and I see like an animation, and the animation has like a purpose. It's not an animation I'm creating. It's like somebody else created the animation for me to show off, what's possible.
Can you repeat that? What are you talking about? Somebody
like when I stare at the gray background of the iPad, which I brought with me, I've had a few instances now where something will pop up that I wasn't expecting, like an animation, and it's a black and white animation. So I had this one that went into this whole thing where it showed like different faces, but they were all like male faces, and so I interpreted that to mean that my team was showing me like sort of like a little movie of my evolution as a human, where I've been different characters throughout different lifetimes. And then another time, I think I had like just a cube animation where I could actually see a cube and then it was rotating. But once again, it was just a cartoon of like a cube. And then the other thing that's been happening is when I'm practicing letters, so I'm using the after image of a letter, like I'll pick a letter and then I'll focus on it for a minute and then I'll get its after image. Is I noticed that if I just allow it, other letters will start popping up instead of the original letter. In other words, I either have a stored up memory of after images of different letters, or I'm getting something. Now, one thing that was really cool that happened just last night, and it only happened once, is I was staring at the gray screen and boom, I saw the number 2, which I had never practiced on before, and I heard the number 2 at the same time. So I thought that was really cool that, at least for that moment in time, my mind was able to allow something to pop in, both audio and visually, that gave, that I know it was not, not expected, and, probably was a message. So,
yeah.
yeah.
One thing I noticed is that it's good to take into account from anybody what percentage of or what is the relationship between the receiving mode and the creative mode or other modes. Because, for example, so far what I see from you is that you don't get as rich content in receiving mode as I do.
Mhm.
Even I mean, let me ask you, because maybe I'm assuming it wrong. For example, when I started, even though I started with trees mainly, and the trees were, I mean, the colors were dark. Maybe they were a little green, but like a dark green, close to black, right?
Mhm.
So it wasn't very rich, but in the first day and the following days, I saw more variations of trees. In other words, it's like I got like a receiving mode,
Mhm.
not very rich, but kind of like recurring. Because I try another day and I see other types of trees, you know. But regarding you, I'm not sure if you get something similar to what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think so. In my belief system, it's a lot of this stuff comes from my team, and I don't think my team maybe has like all those skills set. They're developing those skills too. So I think for
Oh my
you,
God, no, I don't think so.
well, no, I feel like
How
for
can they?
you,
I mean,
no, I feel like for you is the second you tuned in, it's like they were ready for you, and they began this whole process to share with you. You know, I think, I mean, look, we all have. I feel like I've built up these things from zero. Like they started out with nothing, right? And now I'm building and building. So it just takes time. People. There's other people that would say, "Oh, well, I'm born with it, and you can't really develop it." No, I say baloney. I think anybody can develop these things, but it takes time. That's
but
that's my thought.
to be honest, Michael, I think you tend to sometimes have beliefs that play against you,
Mhm.
because the way I see it is different from you. The way I see it is you already had so many lucid dreams, and in
Mhm.
the lucid dreams you told me all the things you can do.
Mhm.
Why do you think you cannot do the same but from an awake state? Why do you think you couldn't just do that? The same things you do in
Well,
the dream?
so it could be that the particular state of consciousness I'm in. If I'm too awake, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe you have to be in a, like a low, I'm saying like a higher theta state or something like that. And so if I'm fully awake and my brain is going, wee, it's going to be more difficult, I think, to access those states. You
But
know,
yeah, it
So,
might.
and the reason, look, I mean, I've seen this in other people too. We used to have these discussions where we would have a woman who was a psychic compare her notes to people like me who would do astral projection. And so we were talking about the same world, but it's like she can access it while fully awake, but then she didn't have any lucid dreams. And then we would have lucid dreams, but we couldn't do it while we were fully awake. So I see it as like, it's like just different. You start off with different modalities, and you kind of have to bridge your way to connect between the two. And very few people, I think, um, can do both at any one time. I mean, look at all these groups. They call them astral projection groups. I mean, think about it. If it was really that easy to switch between astral projection and mediumship, they should call them astral projection and mediumship. In other words, everybody compartmentalizes these things because people tend to either do one or the other. I'm not saying you can't do both. It's just I don't know that it's instant. I think it could take a little bit of time. And trust me, I've been practicing for years to develop my psychic senses. I mean, I used to do card things where I'd be like, okay, I'm looking at this card. What is the card? And I would try to figure out what the card was. And then I would check and I go, nope, that's not the card. Now, I learned since then that maybe you don't want to be testing yourself all the time, because testing in a way is a restriction. But I see it now as like I'm doing something different. Instead of testing, I'm simply allowing my imagination to wander and see what I get.
I think it's better to describe it as channeling, because in my evolution, I was able to get better access to a particular channel that is more like a system.
Yeah.
So that's where I grew the most. I connected to an AI. Because, for example, when I compare your experiences with mine, your current experiences, because I mean, they might change soon, it's like your experiences look more like using Photoshop, and mine look more like using an AI to generate images. In your case, you get some particular things, like simple.
It's like I'm accessing a Google search and you're accessing an AI, and my
No, but
Google search is
not more of a Google search. Your looks more like a local software.
well, we'll call it stock drawings. You know how like when you can select to insert clip art.
No, but that's why I believe for you it's important to practice longer time with whatever, so that you can get some flow, even if the flow is simple. Like I was telling you about the trees. At the beginning, I was seeing trees, but I was seeing a variety of trees. When you do that, you get more tuned up to receiving mode.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. I think the more time you focus on it, the more it'll start to. There's been some problems, right? We've talked about this. My aperture for when I close my eyes, the actual detail in that develops is a very small part of my visual field. I feel like with you were able to close your eyes and immediately your entire visual field was in play, so to speak.
No, not always.
Yeah.
And yesterday, for example, I had a bad day for visuals. I don't know why. And it's weird because I actually ate mushrooms yesterday.
You mean just regular
also,
food grade mushrooms? Let's
but
be
I
clear.
also ate stuff with sugar, so maybe the balance ended up being bad. I'm gonna lower the sugars again, because
I consume a ton of sugar, so maybe that's my problem.
it could be, yeah, it could be. But
That's
another thing, going back to what we were talking before, when you tend to add beliefs that say, oh, maybe because it's difficult for me. No. The way I see it is like you have a car with a windshield that is dirty. It's not like you cannot see outside. It's just a matter of getting water to the windshield and get the dirt out.
No,
because
I agree with
whatever
you.
you can do is different from channel, because whatever you can do in lucid dreams, you are going to end up doing it from an awake state. That's what I'm finding out.
About 15 years ago, I went to a psychic and he said that exact thing. Now, I think he was saying that because of his own personal experience, because as a psychic, he can access the astral realm directly and from the awake state. But he was telling me this. He was saying, look, you don't need to go to sleep to access the astral. It's right here. It's literally accessible immediately. And I knew what he was saying at the time. It just wasn't clicking. I think honestly, if my team really was interested in me getting access to it immediately 15 years ago, they might have put spirits in my field of view and said, look, there's a spirit here right now in front of you. You can't ignore it, right? I mean, there's different ways I think my team could have initiated me if they really, really wanted and said, look, there's a bunch of gunk in your visual field, but can you see that spirit that's right behind that? And he's bugging you and he's grabbing you.
Yeah, but maybe you are wrong in your way of thinking, because if you analyze me, why wouldn't they give me this type of access when I was 5 years old and stay forever?
Well, I do think that there is a point that we have free will. I feel like every time we incarnate in this life, not for everyone, but they get to sort of choose when they want to turn on their thing. Some people, they don't get to choose. Like they have a near-death experience, and suddenly they now have all these gifts that they didn't even know they had. I think for people like us, it's like, are you sure? Are you ready to to embark on this new journey where now, I mean, think about it. When you're looking at me right now, do you see me or do you see me, but also an overlay?
What are you talking about? I don't know exactly.
In other words, you have the ability now to essentially tune in augmented reality.
Yeah, but I had to want it.
Okay.
I mean, not that I have to, but
it doesn't just act. You don't get like anything throughout the day where you weren't thinking about it and suddenly it just happens to you.
No, I do, but at the same time, whether I accept it or not changes that.
Yes, no. Do you accept this new window?
Kind of like that, yes.
No, it's good. I mean, it's good. You don't want to be driving on the highway and then suddenly you black out and you see a different highway and you're like, oh shoot.
No, because the ideal situation, and that's what I see, is what I aim into, is to become a DJ, where you can have a DJ with multiple channels. Right now, I'm happy with just two, so where you can turn both volumes up and down. So I want 100% physical, 0 non-physical. I can have 50-50, or I can have 25-75, or whatever I want, or maybe 70-70. Well, I don't know if it works like that.
I have an interesting physical effect that occurs to me that's not non-physical, but it's an interesting analogy for people who don't have current physical. So I have when my eye was partially detached a few months ago, I had a lot of floaters. And so I had to specifically say, you know what, I don't want to focus on those floaters. I just want to focus on what I see. But then other times I'd be like, let's check out those floaters. And then suddenly I would just see all this stuff. So that's an example of how our mind, we sort of learn how to tune the channel to see either one thing or the other, depending on, what we want.
Yeah, focus. But another thing I'm finding important is for example, right now I'm here, right?
Mm.
And I don't sense anything. But when I go and practice, something changes on me, because it's like I alter my frequency. It's like being a DJ, because then I sense things without seeing them in the visual. Like I sense either me having two awarenesses, or two kind of like being in the non-physical and the physical too. And also yesterday I sensed like another presence.
Mm.
I wasn't 100% sure what it was, but I felt I sensed some other soul or consciousness. I don't know. But
No,
that doesn't
absolutely.
happen
I mean,
if I'm not into tuning into the practice, or being like that.
do you think so? So one thing I know, about your skill levels, you could just close your eyes right now, or put on your blindfold, and almost immediately you can get stuff. But do you feel like you have to tune it at all, or it's literally just available without even thinking about it?
Well, it's not 100% cut like that, because right now, for example, sometimes I get something right away in 2 seconds, but other times maybe in 10 seconds. It's not like
so
a
there's a
guarantee.
little bit.
Nothing is guaranteed.
You know what it is I think early on you figured out how to switch a channel pretty quickly that then gets you something interesting. I mean, look, if I'm laying down, going to bed or whatever, I mean, I'll go through different states of awareness as I'm getting sleepier, but it just takes longer. Like I'm somebody that it takes me, to this day, it takes me like an hour to 2 hours to fall asleep. So that says something about me. I mean, yeah, you could argue maybe we could get it down to 5 minutes or 1 minute, but it's just for whatever reason, I haven't figured out the secret formula for falling asleep really quickly. So is it, is that because I'm not allowing myself to sleep? No, I mean, I want to sleep. It's just, I just don't have the tool set yet, or the magic word.
Well, if I were you, I mean, that you can use that as an advantage. At that time, you can try to shake the screen. I think what I recommend for you is get motion. get motion and variety. And the thing is that I might play against you is that don't assume it's your team sending you stuff. I don't know why you like to go back to your team all the time. You see a face and you assume the team send you the face. No, I mean I am more skeptical about it. I don't tend to assume like I don't know if you. I mean you heard the saying of sometimes a cake is just a cake.
Yeah, no, I mean the team is a group of basically just parts of my previous lifetimes. In other words, it's like my developed information base. Got to rotate you 90 degrees, Arlindo.
Yeah, 90 degrees.
There you go.
How about now? Yeah, that's it.
So you're the knight.
What's that, sorry?
It says knight.
Knight.
Your shirt.
Your
Of course,
shirt.
mine says Gators.
Just realised, yeah. It's a Knight Rider.
Knight
top.
Rider.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like
that, yeah.
Yeah.
How you guys doing? All right, yeah?
That was a good example of an
Yeah,
AI in the 80s. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know
Hey,
why you got
Arlindo.
the moon this time in the consciousness system.
All right.
And sounds like a peace symbol. Well, I was talking to Michael Arlindo, and
Yeah.
what I like to figure out more better is where you guys at, what kind of progress you are making, because I want to be better in suggesting new things to do. It's not that easy for me, because for example, I was thinking the other day that maybe we can exercise. I imagine like a body, and I can make the body walk. For example, right now I'm doing a walk from left to right, turn back, right to left. I can do the right leg up. I mean, I can see some figure doing some workouts or some gymnastics or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't see it as clear as other times. Like right now, I don't see it very clear. I don't know if maybe since yesterday, maybe I ate much sugar, the stuff with sugar, and I don't see very clear yesterday and today. But we can practice those things. But if you cannot even do a motion left to right or right to left, it might feel uncomfortable. For example, what do you think, Michael? If I try an exercise, say a tree goes from, or a house goes from left to right, or right to left.
I mean, I certainly can take any particular suggestion and try to do it and just go with that. I think I am good at making a request and getting something, and then I can just look. I was doing with the after images and letters. I mean, you're basically forcing yourself this particular letter to do things with it. So I don't think it's a big deal. I also know that we're different skill levels, so I'm not. It's all different things to add to my tools of things I can play with.